Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2021 American Express. Earlier in the week, I covered a preview video and a course fit video. This is kind of wrapping those two together and then adding a few more pieces. I think in the future, I'm going to try to deem this like the flagship show called Hitting the Sweet Spot or Hit the Sweet Spot, one of the two, because that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to win a GPP. These are the final touches. Basically what I'll add to this video, looking at time pairings to see if anyone can, as the tour likes to call it, draft off each other, which means, it's like a NASCAR term where you are following someone's heater and you yourself are playing better. So that's why I covered time pairings, and that's why we'll go over those. I will also include the strokes gained player pools that I've incorporated over the last couple tournaments. I think goes back to RSM is when I introduced it. And thankfully that has been doing really well. It's obviously you still need to find the right players, but this is actually narrowing down the player pool even more, helping us really target the best golfers to make a lineup with. So let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. Timestamps are in the description below. Chapter mode's enabled. The progress bar is broken up into segments. You can see which one of those segments are by hovering over it. So you can get to whatever you want really quickly. I do have the notes page up, which has the bucket system. We will cover that, but I want to talk about historical salaries. So what we learned in the preview, basically we wanted one 10K and above golfer and two 6K golfers. That's what we learned. If you want to learn more about it, I would suggest going to the preview video, because I just want to get through this boom, 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 and then get on into time pairings and really kind of creating lineups, essentially. In the bucket system video, or I should say in the preview, the bucket system was in the preview, is what I'm trying to say. What we learned there, we want to target golfers who didn't play the year before, or top 20, or missed the cut. Those three combined buckets make up over 75%. And this is just for the last year bucket. So that first column before a player's name will be the last year bucket. I'm sure most of you guys know that by now. The last week bucket, which will be that second number, I guess for those who've never seen this before, it would be these two right here. Last year bucket, last week bucket. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So for that, for last week, we want to target golfers who, it's pretty even, but we really want to look at golfers who finished top 20 last week and then also did not play. Now you can see some of the percentages here. That range percentage should just be like a total percentage. I don't know exactly what to name this, but 14.62%, what that's saying is, of all golfers in this range, of all golfers who were a 20th place or better finish the week prior to this tournament, dating back to 2013, 14.62% of those golfers finished inside the top 10. So it's kind of giving you a little bit more of a confidence rating. So definitely want to target those golfers. You can kind of see on the screen which ones are a little bit more confident. Obviously, the golfers who did not play, we see many more of them inside the top 10, but of all of them, only 4.27%. So it's a little trickier to try to find the right golfer there. But hopefully when we look at salaries, we look at the strokes gained buckets, all that kind of stuff, we'll be able to narrow our pool down considerably and find the best core, basically. So that was the preview in a nutshell. We did talk about optimal lineups, but that is also kind of tied up with historical salaries. Again, finding a 10K and above golfer, two 6Ks, sprinkle in the rest, basically. So that was the preview. Let's go into what we learned about the course fit. Now, what's unfortunate about the course fit, I checked today, no tournament fact sheets. So again, I kind of had a little bit of a rant in my course fit. I think the the superintendent for, or whatever superintendent's in charge of this tournament, it's up to him whether or not he wants to provide those tournament fact sheets. Last year was his first year doing so, or whoever was in charge last year. That was the first year the American Express, obviously had a bunch of different name changes. That was the first year they provided tournament fact sheets. They didn't have it the year before. They didn't have it the year before that, and they don't have it right now. So we're not going to see how the tournament is being set up. One of the things that we could see in the 2020 tournament fact sheet that it said Bermuda grass. Don't believe that. And in fact, don't believe some of those, what do you want to call them? Popular DFS golf podcasts. Whoever says that it's Bermuda, it's not Bermuda. It's not. I made a rant about this in the course fit. It's not Bermuda. It can't be. Bermuda does not survive there. So not at this time of the year. Just believe me. I, unlike some of those other guys, went to school for this. I know, and I used to live there. So just know it's not Bermuda. Don't look at Bermuda stats. What you can do, though, it is a Pete Dye golf course. So definitely look at Pete Dye stats. I should say the stadium courses. And I guess to provide a little bit of a summary on the tournament, 2 golf courses instead of 3 this year, playing the Nicklaus tournament course and the stadium course on Thursday, Friday, or mix them up. Saturday, Sunday is played strictly at the stadium course, so we're getting one more round at the stadium course than we typically would. Again, that would mean definitely look into the Pete Dye stats, which we did during the course fit video. So definitely look there. You can see some of the best course fit plays that I thought were good course fit plays. Looking at the course breakdown from the course fit video, the stadium course has a lot of water on it, and to access some of the pins that might be tucked behind, I have on the screen what shot shape would be required. We did see many more draws here than I would say at any other course that I've done this for. It's not necessary, but I think it's much more beneficial to have those types of like the shot shapes you see on the screen. So you can take that for what it is. Those are just my 2 cents. We looked at weather. Weather looked good. It is the desert. I know a podcast mentioned the Santa Ana winds. Yeah. When I lived there in the wintertime, the Santa Ana winds maybe came in out of a total of the 180 days that I was there, during the wintertime. They probably rolled in maybe 7 times, maybe like a handful of times. Like they rarely show up. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. We're not going to see very windy conditions. We're not going to see very rainy conditions. So that kind of recaps the weather forecast. And then, I mean, that was pretty much it. We looked at course history, which really should be called tournament history. And then I kind of went with my best course fit plays. Let's go ahead, and now that we've done a recap of those 2 videos, let's go into tee time pairings. So I did something a little different for this tournament than I've done in past tournaments. Usually, what I've talked about before is I highlight, tee times over here, and these tee times are highlighted because they're my favorite tee time pairings. And I base it off of the scoring average, usually of recent form scoring average, and then season long. Last week, what I had to do, since we didn't really have recent form, I used DK points plus scoring average. I'm just going to say it right now. I use DK points and scoring average, but what I did is I combined them together. So I essentially just went 100 minus the scoring average, because obviously that gets you a better number for the low scoring guys. Added it to the DK average, and then I took the top half of those golfers and I highlighted the game numbers. So obviously the game numbers that are all paired together, those that are, highlighted in green means there's somebody else in their playing group that also fell in that top half. Those that are yellow were just by themselves. And then dark green, which we'll get down to, means all 3 of them fit that mold. So thought it'd be easier doing it that way instead of, trying to highlight two different things and then try to explain it. This way I think is a little bit easier. So very first tee time off at the stadium course, Scotty Scheffler, Abram Ancer. I think they were supposed to play with John Rahm, but he withdrew. John Senden will be playing with them, and DraftKings does not have his information, so I don't have it on the spreadsheet. It's a dynamite group. Scheffler's been showing up in my model a lot. I mean, I do have the SweetSpot rank here, and I will talk about that after the tee time pairings here. But obviously, this is a rank, so the lower the number, the better. You can see 6 and 8 in my model. I have nothing against either of these golfers. I really like, Abram Ancer is in my dummy lineup, which is just a handcrafted lineup that I thought had all of the best players. He's there. When I created an optimizer, or I'm in the middle of creating an optimizer, and what's spitting out is Scheffler. So Scheffler is being spit out with Patrick Cantlay a lot. So I gotta say, Scheffler is a decent play. This is a dynamite group. I like it a lot. There are different values, I feel like, with groups like Wyndham Clark and Camilo Villegas. Like, Villegas is a 6K golfer. We need one in our lineups. I don't think it's a bad idea to pair him up with Wyndham Clark. And I guarantee you Ryan Moore probably would be highlighted if he had enough events for this year. I think he doesn't have scoring average or something like that. So he didn't show up, or it was DraftKings points. I can't remember, but did not show up for one of those stats. Therefore, it's blank. So either way, this group, sneaky good. Doc Redman, James Hahn, and Aaron Baddeley. Baddeley was top of the leaderboard last week for a short time. All three of these golfers, really, really good. Redman shows up in my model. He's actually someone who, we'll get to that. We'll get to the optimizer. I'll show you what I'm doing, and I'll show you what's being spit out as favorite plays. But Redman I like a lot. I actually liked James Hahn is actually in my dummy lineup as well. So I had him paired with Abram Ancer. Just because I just liked, when I first saw, I liked his value. And those guys being paired together, I think it's pretty good. We got a couple guys here by themselves. I'm going to just leave it to you guys to read who they are. I'm not going to go over them. I'm just going to go over the ones that we see multiple guys that fall under that criteria. So the next group, Adam Long, Zach Johnson, Jimmy Walker is not a part of it, but Long and Johnson, they're the ones that Long Johnson. Dang it. Had to do it. The child in me just came out there. So either way, Adam Long, Zach Johnson, that might be a decent pairing. I don't hear much being talked about either of them. I won't lie. I don't care for them, to be quite honest. So it might be a decent play, pairing them up together. Our next group, Patton Kizzire and Keegan Bradley. They're playing with Kevin Tway, but Tway has been playing pretty bad golf lately. Kizzire and Bradley, not a bad mix-up. Bradley kind of burned a bunch of people, including myself, last week. And Kizzire looked good. So I think that's a pretty decent play. I would definitely look into pairing those guys up together. And then our first group that has all three golfers paired up together that fit that criteria, the scoring criteria that highlighted these golfers: Brooks Koepka, Cameron Champ, Paul Casey. I won't lie, I really didn't think about playing any of these guys. Koepka's number 2 in the model, which is surprising. I think a lot of it has to do with his scoring. I have my scoring models over here. I think a lot of it just has to do with his salary, if I'm being quite honest. I do weight based off of salary only because, these are the favorite golfers. Even if a stat model doesn't show like why these guys are good, the fact that they are priced so high has some kind of indication that they're good. So it has more to do with the salary being high. I'm pretty skeptical on Brooks. I probably won't have him in many of my lineups. I'll definitely play him in a handful. Like, I usually play around 70 lineups, so I'll definitely have him in like 4 or 5. But I'm definitely not playing a lot of them. And I will put him in like one of my high entry fee tournaments just to hedge myself, but I don't care really for Brooks Koepka. Champ and Casey, they're interesting ones. Like, I really like Champ's ability to score. Paul Casey to me is too, like, it's going to sound weird, but he's too safe. Like, he's too conservative. He can shoot around, like, he could get to 20 under no problem at this tournament. And he's probably going to do it the way you want him to do it, where he's going to score 5 under each round. I don't know. I feel like all he can do, until I see something from him that tells me he's back or whatever, is like 2 or 3 under a day. And that'll probably make the cut, but it's not going to win a GPP. And being priced at $8,700, I think I'll pass. You know, I don't care for him. But either way, Koepka, Champ, Casey, those guys are all grouped together. Decent plays. The number one golfer in my model, Patrick Cantlay. Him and Phil, believe it or not Ricky. They're playing with Ricky Fowler, but Cantlay and Phil, apparently they fit that criteria to get their names highlighted. It's a really good group. Some of the best rankings together. I really like Cantlay. I'm probably gonna, create some lineups where he's paired with Fowler. And then maybe I'll create 1 or 2 that's with Mickelson. Probably not, but maybe. But just showing you guys what that is. This is a really interesting group. Maverick McNeely, Kevin Streelman, and Adam Schenk. If there was ever a showdown slate on Thursday to do, pairing those 3 golfers might be the play. Having all 3 of them in your lineup for the entire week, probably a mistake, but maybe playing 1 or 2 of them would not be. I don't have a take one way or the other. I'm just going to leave it there. The next group's really interesting too. So all these guys are highlighted as well. Matt Jones, Doug Gim, and Brian Stewart. Doug Gim burned a lot of people last week. Brian Stewart didn't really finish the greatest towards the end. I think 5 is 40th to 60th place. Yeah, he finished... he finished 47th last week. So not a great finish, but at $6,600, not terrible. And if you do need 2 6K golfers, they might be the play. I guarantee you, if you pair either of these 2 golfers, any 2 of these 3 golfers, you will not have a duplicate lineup. So, do with that as you will. A couple other guys here that are just highlighted by themselves. I don't really care to talk about them. Actually, Kramer Hickok is playing with John Augenstein, who is a up-and-coming guy. Like, he is someone definitely keep your eyes on. And Chase Seifert. I think these are all young guys, I believe. No. Well, sort of, yeah. Seifert and Hickok are 28 and Augenstein's 23. So, not a terrible lineup. They're pairing. They're obviously not highlighted in my model here, but either way, probably not a terrible play, if I'm being completely honest. I think these guys can go low. I think Augenstein, being a collegiate athlete, or coming from the collegiate spotlight, whatever you want to call it, I think he probably has enough, I'm going to say this tongue-in-cheek, but enough stupidity to play this golf course. I think he can attack. He's going to be attacking pins, and that's exactly what we need at this tournament. If you're not first, you're last. And I think Augenstein's going to provide that type of value. So Hickok with Augenstein, I don't think that's a terrible play. Our next group that's all paired together, Chris Kirk, Denny McCarthy, Bo Hosler. I really have nothing bad to say. I think it's a decent group. And, the scoring stats are there. That's why they're highlighted. So, decent one there. Hoagie and Neesmith are playing with Mark Hubbard. Hubbard is also a first or last type of golfer. So, I don't mind playing Hubbard. There was a time during the restart where he had the most rounds in the 60s than any other golfer. That's including all your elite golfers. So I definitely think that would be worth the play. Russell Henley is playing with Taylor Gooch and Patrick Rogers. Like that group. I no issues playing any of those guys. Sepp Straka is with Kyle Stanley and Bill Haas. Now, Bill Haas missed the cut, and it probably looked bad because he was near the bottom of the leaderboard. But one shining moment was he was 4 under on his last round, his second round, that is. So he probably turned things around, and he likes this tournament. I believe he's won here before. I think he's actually from this area or once was from this area. Either way, probably a decent play there. Patrick Reed is in a lineup with Gary Woodland and Andrew Landry. So Woodland obviously had his hip issues. The group together itself is solid. I don't think there's an issue playing any of them. So naturally, I'm going to say it's a good tee time pairing to attack. Sung J Im is with Russell Knox and Hudson Swafford. I like Im. I don't so much care for Swafford or Russell Knox. So I don't know. Maybe I'll probably not play Im. A 3-5 usually doesn't show up, and this is the bucket combination I'm talking about. Doesn't really show up inside the top 10, so this might be a week I fade Sung J M. I definitely will play him, but just he won't be a high-owned guy. Another group that has all 3 highlighted: Brendan Steele, Nick Taylor, Martin Laird. Pass. Don't care for him. Tony Finau is paired up with Matthew Wolff and Kevin Na. I would like this, I think, a little bit. Well, actually, I don't mind this whatsoever. I think it's a really good group, and I think they can play off of each other. So this is an underrated group. Not a lot of people are talking about Tony Finau. There are people talking about Matthew Wolff, and not a lot of people talking about Kevin Na. So really, you could pair Finau with either of these guys and have extremely low ownership, especially when they're grouped together. So probably a good play there. Our next group that has all 3 paired together: Lonto Griffin, Scott Piercy, and Jim Herman. Herman's been playing some good golf lately. He won at the Wyndham, during last season. I can't remember when it's played, September, something like that. And he played really well at the last 2 events, I want to say. So scored 93.5 DraftKings points last week, 32nd place. I can't remember what he did at the Tournament of Champions, but I think he played there as well. Either way, playing good golf recently, get on that recent form, probably a good play. Scott Piercy, I have no issue with, and Lonto Griffin, no issue with. I think that's a pretty decent tee time pairing. Joel Damon is playing with Charlie Hoffman and Chesson Hadley. I think Chesson Hadley is an underrated golfer at this tournament. I think this is actually a really good spot for him to, for us to play. He attacks pins. He's one of those first or last golfers. Definitely like him as a potential play. Pairing him up with either Charlie Hoffman or Joel Damon, I have no issues with those. I don't really care for either of them. So really up to you guys if you want to play them. Cameron Tringale is playing with JJ Spawn, and together they're playing with Sung Yul No. I don't know really when it comes to this group. I do like Tringale. JJ Spawn is from this area, I do believe. I don't remember where his birthplace is, but his home state is California, so I assume this is a place he's very familiar with. At $6,200, not terrible, and if you want to pair him up with Tringale, it leaves you with a ton of cap space to play other players. Another pairing together, Cameron Percy and Ben Martin. I don't know why Ben Martin is highlighted. I think it has to do with this is DraftKings points, to be quite honest. I think he played in an event. Let's see, what is he? 6,000. Let's look at our 2021. Ben Martin missed the cut. Oh, that's Ben Taylor. My bad. Where's Ben Martin? I don't see it. So I think it had to have been, I want to say Corrales, maybe. I'm not positive. Maybe you guys know. My bad for not knowing that, but not sure why he's highlighted. But either way, playing with Cameron Percy, I don't care, honestly. 2 really low 6K golfers. I don't know, are any of them ranked? Neither of them are ranked. Pass. The next group I think is really interesting. Sam Burns, Peter Malnati, and Scott Stallings. I like them all. And if you watch this, or if you follow the 6K range on Twitter, he mentioned, or they mentioned, Scott Stallings as one of their favorite plays. I think it's a pretty decent play, and I know he's done well here in the desert, at this tournament before. So I have no problems with that. I think that's a good play. Really like Sam Burns, so obviously pairing him up with either of those two guys, I think is a solid way to go. And the last group, probably an underrated group that you may not hear in the same light. Akshay Bhatia, Joseph Bramlett, and Hank Lebioda. I mean, I think this is definitely a first or last group. All of them. They're very volatile golfers. I mean, for a showdown slate, if they're going to be this cheap, oof, I think that's a good choice. Yeah, obviously these guys are it's their DraftKings points is making them high enough to be highlighted. Obviously, Bhatia does not have any scoring average. I think I just gave him 30. Anyone who didn't, I just provided a random number. So either way, I think it's a really good group. Probably really underrated. No one's talking about it. Okay, let's get into our next piece, and then which is going to be looking at the strokes gain pools. And then we can go into creating some lineups, trying to keep this video a little shorter than usual. But what I typically do, or what I have been doing, is creating these pools based off of certain strokes gain combinations. Again, me putting things into buckets. I'm putting these guys into buckets based off their strokes gain combinations. You can see at the top, I put what it is, what it means for that bucket. Everything positive off the tee plus positive putting, positive off the tee, negative putting, negative off the tee, positive putting, negative off the tee, negative putting. And I actually included one more. There's no strokes gained stats available for these guys. I do have numbers at the top of how many to pick of each, and that is just typically that's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. It's an analyze, like I'm looking at previous tournaments, looking at this tournament, past results, trying to find, basically those combinations. So if we were to look at 2020, I'm going to hide some more of this information that's probably not necessary to show. So I have all the strokes gained right here. When we look, we see a positive off the tee, negative putting. So right away, like there's one. Negative off the tee, negative putting. Positive off the tee, positive putting. Negative off the tee, positive putting. Positive on the tee, negative. Positive. Like it just falls in line. Everything that I mentioned or that I showed on that last spreadsheet works for the 2020 season. For 2019, I have it by rankings. I wish I would have updated it. That kind of stinks. Yeah, it'd probably take too much time to actually go through it. But you can kind of see by rankings, what would be. All we can do is guess. I'm sorry for not having this updated. Back in the day, I used to go by rankings. Instead of the actual strokes gain metrics. I just thought it was cleaner looking as I'm showing you guys, or as I was looking at this, showing my friends, that kind of stuff. But you can see, obviously, oh man, here, we can go into 2019 and look at what positive putting was, what the ranking was, so we can see what the putting ended up being. So when we get to the negatives, it's 112. And then off the tee, that's a little bit trickier. Well, we see 94 was positive, 101 is positive. So is 103, 111 is positive. 118, we're getting closer. I'm just going to say 120. Let's call it 120. 120 is where negative would be. Sure. We'll save time and just call it that. Maybe you guys already saw it. You guys can shout at me in the comments. But basically 120 off the tee would be negative. So you'd have negative off the tee there. You'd have negative off the tee Here, negative off the tee plus negative putting, negative off the tee plus positive putting. You know, the trends still remain the same. So either way, what we see for these pools, now everything positive is lumped into the positive off the tee, positive putting. Obviously, it's going to be there. This is just kind of like, okay, so out of these guys, you know, who can we anchor our lineups with? You can see who's on this or in this bucket. Akshay Bhatia is there. James Hahn, Kevin Streelman, John Huh, Cameron Tringali, Russell Henley, Finau, Koepka, and Cantlay. Like, these are, you know, you could create a core with any of those golfers, honestly. It really makes me interested in Akshay. But usually, even though this is a good group, we find two guys who miss the cut. And if we're going to guess, I guess if I was going to guess, it's going to be Damon. And it's probably going to be Bhatia. But if I was going to say another close one, it's going to be Austin Cook. But I think that's a pretty decent group. So what I actually do in the spreadsheet is I assign numbers. I called this the PP group, and I just thought to myself, what a dumb name. So it's SGP, strokes gain pool. Actually, I could call it strokes gain bucket. Why don't we do that, right? I mean, we just talk about buckets constantly. Ex-basketball player here, that's probably why. But I split them up into buckets. We have ones, we have twos, we have threes, fours, and fives. I'm going to stick to the rules that I have. So I have 2 to 4, positive off the tee, positive putting. 1 to 3, positive off the tee, negative putting. 0 to 2, negative off the tee, positive putting. And 0 to 2, negative off the tee, plus negative putting. Here's what I intend to do in the future, but we're not doing it here. I just saw the negative off the tee, negative putting, and saw Kevin Na at the top. Kevin Na is not known for being a negative putter. And the stats I'm using come from the PGA Tour, and they started at the beginning of the PGA season. So we're in the 2021 season. It started with the Safeway Open. Kevin Na probably had one event in there where his strokes gained was so bad, putting that is, that it's basically lessened it. You know, like it made it negative. And obviously we're going by averages, so we can't see. He just won a tournament last week. I'm guessing his putting was pretty okay. So to see him negative putting, I don't think that's true. You know, I don't think he should be a negative putter. Either way, I'm going to still use these groups. We're still going to find, because this is exactly how last year's tournament was decided, using these same exact stats from it's not the same exact stats, but it comes from the PGA Tour. And again, they start it from the beginning of the season to current day. That was in 2020. Same thing applies for this year. I'm using the exact same time frame, exact same stats. So I'm assuming we're going to see a little bit of the same. Why I like doing this is, again, it's going to narrow our player pool. So we can look at buckets. We can also look at these strokes gained buckets. So if I were just to clear this and go, out of all of the last year ones, which ones fall under the last year 1 and 2 buckets? Not a lot. We have 6. So if we wanted to start here and say, okay, I know we need, you know, if we go back to the bucket system, look at last year for top 10s, that is, and say we need somewhere between 3 to 4. And maybe we just say 2 to 4 last year ones in our lineup. Do we want to anchor them with any of these guys here? You know, any of the guys that are in, you know, the positive putting, positive off the tee? Maybe. You know, if we do that, what we can do is just cross off one name from the strokes gained. Let's just do that. Let's make a lineup that looks like that. So Patrick Cantlay, we'll put him up at the top. And then let's add another guy who is a 1 or a 2. I guess let's go Chris Kirk. I have no issue with that. So now we have 2. If we go back to the spreadsheet, we have 2 crossed off basically from 2 to 4. Now I say minimum is 2, maximum's 4, so we could pick 2 more golfers if we wanted to for that strokes gained bucket. But do we continue grabbing from the last year bucket? Probably not. That's probably not a wise choice, and I have not analyzed that yet. That will come in the future, but currently right now, not so much. If I wanted to grab another 1 though, I mean, like, I like John Augenstein. I don't mind playing him. I don't mind playing Camilo Villegas. I think those are all good plays. Adam Hadwin is down here. He's in the 5th strokes gained bucket, or strokes gained bucket 5. I don't know, man. I think what I want to do is probably just add Augenstein. Throwing him at the end here. He's my 6K golfer. So it leaves me 82. Those are my last year 1s, basically. And they actually all were different, right? No, we had Augenstein and Cantlay both 1-1s. Chris Kirk was a 1-2. I will say having that many 1-1s together, probably not a good option. If we look at 2020, oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm mistaken. But if we look at our 1-1s, we had a 6K, 8395. How about in 2019? So basically our high price guys are our 1-1s. Okay, so then maybe we get rid of Augenstein. Like, that's probably a wise choice, if I'm being completely honest. Let's go and move on to the next. You know, we don't need to look at last year 1s for this. We can just look at strokes gained 2 or strokes gained 3. So who do we like here? I can always rank by the bucket or the sweet spot number, which I forgot to mention. I said I was going to do right after Time Pairings. I will add it at the end. I'll give it actually here. I'll say it now. I'm thinking about how I want to timestamp this, but the strokes gain number is just a homemade equation, basically. A homemade, you know, what do I find important? I'm not going to really talk about this, but it's the range numbers just in a number, you know. So I'm looking at these, adding those as values, because I do believe that is a value that I can add. Same applies to the buckets here. And then the bucket combination, that's just the percentage that we've seen inside the top 10 as a full number. We look at salary. Again, like I said, I think it's important. That's just the salary times 10, I believe, in number format. Look at die average. This should say top 10 die. It's not actually Bermuda. And then tournament history, DK scoring average, or DK average plus scoring average. I already explained what that is, and that gives us a pretty big number over here. So with that, then I rank them. That's how we get the number. Yeah, I guess I don't need to really add that into the timestamps. Either way, we could go by the number here. We could go by buckets. You know, we don't have a 3-1 whatsoever. We could also go by salary. It's probably a smarter choice. You know, Wyndham Clark is someone that just pops out right away. Someone that I like, somebody who fits the pricing that we want. He is a 3. I have no issue putting Wyndham Clark in my lineup. Now we can find one more, because in the strokes gained pool, it says 1 to 3. I should probably put what strokes gained bucket number this is, but this is number 3. I can find one more. Molinari's here. Not terrible. Camilo Villegas is here. Didn't we just see him in the 2s? Oh, no, I had it sorted. That's why. Okay. So he was the last year 1. I get it. Understood. Do we see anyone else down here that we absolutely like and that we absolutely need? Probably not. I mean, I'm really tempted to play Augenstein. Hope his name's not Augenstein. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but either way. Yeah, I don't know if this is where we find our 6K golfer, and that's probably a good reason to actually play someone down here, 6K. Sebastian Kaplan's number is it's good because of his performances on Pete Dye golf courses. Roger Sloan's intriguing. Bramlett, we talked about him with the tee time pairings. He's intriguing. I don't know, man. I think this is just where I hit another 7K golfer. Like Keegan Bradley. I have no problem playing Keegan. This will give us 3 last year ones. That's probably the max that I actually want to do with last year ones. We can look at 4s. Probably just want 1 or 2 out of the strokes gained bucket 4s. And how much do we have? 8,400. So really we can grab anybody here. I really like Alex Noren, and I'm just going to put him in there right away. So our last golfer, we can choose anyone under 9,300 and under. So we could look at any bucket, and that's usually when I just open it up, because then this is where you kind of add a little bit of the variance. So we could go with any of these 4 golfers here: Fowler, Nah, Answer, and Henley. Seeing as the last year 3s are a pretty good number to choose from, like we don't have, 11.85% of all last year 3s. Usually last year 3s are your top 20s. We're only going to find 20 of those golfers. Typically in this field, we actually have 19. We could get one more. I mean, if we're doing our math, 11% of basically 20 should be 2. So we can grab 2 golfers. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. So everyone likes Answer. I like Answer. Let's put Answer. And this fits the strokes gained bucket for the player, or the player pool, basically, the buckets I create for that. And it also falls in line with the bucket system itself. This is just one idea of creating a lineup. What I want to show you, what I've been working on that I think is really interesting. I somehow stumbled upon an optimizer spreadsheet video, and I was like, oh, while I'm working, this seems pretty interesting, like working my real job. So I watched it and basically did a tutorial on how to create it. So I never really thought about doing something like this, but I like it. And there are things I can add to it. Like using the strokes gained buckets, using the bucket system itself. I can put all those rules in and have this actually spit out to me what would be optimal based off of my criteria. So I will be working on this in the future, and I will probably just end up using this and say, okay, here's the most optimal lineup that I have set. But you can see the number here, 1569. That is the total number that we have for Patrick Cantlay. If we scroll over, it should be 1569. Okay, it went down. I can't remember why. I must have updated something. Oh, yeah, actually I did. So what I'm going to do is update this again, because I found out that one of my scoring things was weird. It was wonky. Didn't work out. So there we go. Now we've updated it. 1528 is the top now. Actually, let me make sure everything is correct. Okay. So let's go ahead, look at the optimizer here. So I don't have anything set. I have nothing locked as my favorite plays. If I just run the optimizer, it's going to spit out what should be the best group for me, which is way different than what it was before, if I'm being honest. I can't even go back. Okay, whatever. I was interested to actually hit the back button a couple times to show you whatever happened. But the 3 golfers that remain at the top, these are 3 new guys. But the 3 guys at the top, Actually, I don't know how well you guys can see that at home. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Cantlay, Scheffler, Burns. Those guys are favorite golfers of mine, period, for this tournament. Having Siwoo Kim there is interesting. We do want 2 6K golfers. Harry Hall, I saw a Twitter mention. I have no idea who the heck he is. And Joo-hyung Kim is actually Tom Kim. He goes by Tom. That's his American name. I don't mind these players, but honestly, I don't want to see Tom Kim or Harry Hall. I don't know. I don't know much about them. So what I can do here is 66 and 63. Go down Harry Hall and just X, and then 63. We'll X here as well. I don't know who they are, but I can run this optimizer again and it'll switch them out. There we go. This is the exact same lineup that I actually saw when I ran it the first time. Cantlay, Scheffler, Burns, Noren, Streelman, and Vincent Whaley. To me, no issue with this whatsoever. Really, really like this lineup. I will in the future find a way. I'll probably just copy this instead of the actual name. But if we were to put this down, I mean, I'm going to play it in one of my lineups. You're more than welcome to do the same thing. I'm only creating one. I don't think it's terrible. These are also golfers that a lot of people are already on. So I don't find an issue with it. And it's kind of interesting seeing how this is playing out. Maybe I won't like it if I keep seeing the colors that come with these guys. Okay, Streelman, not terrible. Because 3 is the absolute most that I want for yellows. Let's see, where are you, Vincent Whaley? It's one of those things. There we go. Hey, that's not terrible, man. We have 4 different colors being represented here. That's pretty decent. If we were to X out Cantlay and run the optimizer, what spits out next? Koepka ends up just slotting in, but then the last 2 change. Anirban Lahiri and Keegan Bradley. I don't mind that. If we X that out, try to get us closer to like a more balanced lineup. Let's see what it will spit out. The same thing. No. Doc Redman joins the party. Here is, and I saw this before too. Here's your balance build. Like, look at the golfers right there. That is a fantastic lineup. And I'm going to use that as well. I'm going to screenshot that. I'm not going to waste your time and plug in those golfers, but like, it's pretty fun playing them with this optimizer, and it's going to save me a lot of homework. Not so much homework, but a lot of time creating lineups. Like, this was kind of like a godsend, honestly. I wasn't even expecting anything like this, but it showed up that way, and I couldn't be any more excited about it. There we go. Looks a little messy right now, but I definitely want to keep that on there. That way I can just copy and paste. It won't give me the colors, which is kind of disappointing. Yeah, all right. We're gonna change it back up. I want to see the color. So either way, I've screenshotted it, so it's there. If I were to get rid of Sung JM and run the optimizer, what does that do? Martin Laird, Patrick Reed slots up there, but these 4 stay the same. Apparently that's my core. In the CourseFit video, Alex Noren was one of my favorite 7K plays, as was Doc Redman. So it's looking good. One thing to note, we are not seeing anybody. Tony Finau's not making the list so far. Still is not making the list. Here's another balance build. This is a good one as well. Adam Long's in there. So super interesting there. If we were to remove that, go down there and X out Vincent Whaley. Just because I want to see other combinations. Anirban Lahiri, you like that, and then Brian Harman gets slotted in. Man, this optimizer is looking good. So those are all plays that I absolutely like anyways. And they're obviously based off the score that I gave, the SweetSpot rank. And a lot of that, again, it includes the bucket. I mean, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns that incorporate the bucket system in it. So it's obviously showing up, and we're seeing a lot of last year 3s. It's not terrible. So hopefully this was decent for you guys and that you found a lot of value out of it. Let me know. I mean, the optimizer thing is extremely exciting for me. Just because I was able to visualize what it could look like. And especially, this is something I can provide the community a little bit easier than, say, Google Sheets. You know, a spreadsheet can be bought. Google Sheets has to be shared. So there's weirdness that goes along with that, but either way, I'm pretty excited about it. So hopefully that was good for you guys, and you got a lot out of this, and it helped you either solidify who you wanted to play to begin with, or got you on some new guys that you probably didn't think of. Either way, let me know in the comment section below. I mean, honestly, comments go a long ways. I like to interact with my community, so please, or with the community, so please do so. But I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the review video. Let's go win some money, some big money. All right, bye.